So, you've been injured in an accident here in Scotland. And, it's not just about the pain, is it? It's the whole disruption, the uncertainty, and there's probably one massive question that's just hanging over everything. Well, today we're going to tackle that question head on.
And there it is. How long is this going to take? It's the first thing everyone asks, and for good reason. I mean, your whole world has been flipped upside down. You just want to know when things might, start feeling normal again. When will this claim be over? When will you get the compensation you need?
And that really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? Look, you might be off work, worried about bills, juggling what feels like a million appointments. It's just this cloud of uncertainty. So, getting a handle on the timeline, that's not just about satisfying your curiosity. It's about getting some control back in your life.
All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to give you that clarity. We'll start with that big question, then we'll walk through the roadmap every claim follows. We'll look at specific timelines, break down why delays happen, talk about what you can do to help, and then we'll wrap up with what might be the most important idea of all, the strategic wait.
Okay, so here's the thing. Even though every single case has a different timeline, and they really can vary, the actual journey is almost always the same. Think of it like a roadmap. Every single personal injury claim in Scotland goes through these same 5 fundamental stages. And once you understand this roadmap, the whole waiting game starts to make a lot more sense.
So here it is, that universal roadmap. Step 1 is the initial assessment and instruction. This is where you first get your solicitor on board. And honestly, this part is pretty quick, usually just a week or 2 to get the ball rolling. But then we hit step 2, gathering evidence. And okay, this is where the timeline starts to stretch. Your solicitor has to chase down all your medical records, get reports from experts, and this can take anywhere from, say, 3 to 6 months, sometimes even longer if your case is complicated. Honestly, this is often the longest stretch of the whole journey. Right, once all that evidence is finally in, we move on to step 3, valuation, and then right into step 4, negotiation. This is the back and forth where offers are made to try and settle things, and then only if a settlement can't be reached, we get to the final step, court proceedings. Now this is the real wild card. If you have to go to court, that can easily add a year or even more to the whole process.
Okay, so we've got the 5-stage roadmap. Now, what does that actually look like in the real world? Let's dive into a few different scenarios. The chances are you'll see something here that feels pretty close to your own situation.
This really shows you the massive range we're talking about. Look, a simple road accident where it's super clear who is at fault, you could be looking at a settlement in 6 to 12 months. But a serious road accident? Now we're talking 18 months to 3 years, because you simply can't put a final number on the claim until we know your long-term medical future. Workplace accidents can stretch out even longer, especially if the employer fights back on who's to blame. And then you get to the really complex stuff like industrial disease claims. Those can take years, just because the evidence is so hard to gather and you know they're going to be defended tooth and nail.
So let's just boil that down. On the absolute fastest track, for the most straightforward open and shut case you can imagine, you're looking at maybe 6 months. That's pretty much the best case scenario.
But on the flip side of that coin, a really complex case, one where liability is denied, that timeline can easily stretch to 5 years, sometimes more. The difference between the two is just huge, and almost always it boils down to one thing: how complicated the evidence is.
Which brings us to a really important point: delays. Look, I get it. It is so easy to get frustrated when things seem to be dragging on, but it's absolutely vital to understand this. Not all delays are bad. In fact, sometimes the longest waits are actually there to protect you.
The number one reason for what feels like a delay is waiting for the medical picture to clear up. A good solicitor will tell you, we are not settling this until we know exactly what your long-term recovery looks like. And why is that? It's simple. Settling too early means you're almost guaranteed to settle for less than your claim is actually worth. So this isn't a bug, it's a feature. It's the system working for you. Yeah, sure, other things like waiting for records from the NHS or court backlogs can slow things down, but that medical wait, that's the one you absolutely have to get right.
Now, I know it can feel like a lot of this is out of your hands, but you're not just a passenger on this ride. There are absolutely things you can do to help keep the wheels turning and prevent any unnecessary holdups. And trust me, they can make a real difference.
Here's your action plan. First, when your solicitor asks for something, get back to them as quickly as you can. Second, keep a detailed record of everything, every expense, every day off work. Third, and this is a big one, attend all of your medical exams. Fourth, when an offer does come in, be ready to make a decision based on the advice you get. But honestly, the most important thing you can do is right at the beginning. Get a specialist solicitor on your side as early as you possibly can. That gives them the runway they need to build the strongest case for you without being rushed.
Okay, let's pull all this together. If you take away just one thing today, I want it to be this. It's all about changing how you think about this whole waiting period. Really? It comes down to two paths. Path one is the quick settlement. And sure, it's tempting, but it often means taking a payment before anyone really knows the full, long-term impact of your injury. The risk? You end up with far less than you deserve. Then there's path two, the strategic wait. This is about giving your case the time it needs for all the evidence to come in so your solicitor can negotiate from a position of real strength. It's the path that leads not to the fastest payment, but to the fairest one.
And that's the bottom line, right there. Patience in this process isn't passive. It's not just sitting around and waiting. It's a strategy. It's the time your team needs to build a rock-solid case that ensures you get the compensation you're truly entitled to. And once you really get that, the wait stops being a source of anxiety, and it becomes a source of strength.